Welcome to the audiobook of The King's Moves. Please note, the ideas contained within this document are strictly for brainstorming and hypothetical purposes only, and should not be considered an incitement to violence or treason. Destruction and war is not the goal. The goal is unity, repair, brotherhood, reform, and renewal. This is but a tiny fraction of the depth and detail of the full plan, but for anonymity's sake, I must refrain from sharing those details for now. The King, to be determined. Background. This agenda is to be proposed to Pentagon officials, and they then secretly spread this plan to their colleagues. Once enough secret military consensus has been achieved, the officials agree to soft coup, no death or violence necessary, the federal government. They will then build a syndicate known as the Holy Paladins, or Paladin for short, and implement the following reforms outside of Congress and the Constitution. A direct democracy approval process for the following actions. We will have an active military vote in a direct democracy, requiring a 2/3 majority to approve of any decrees on the list, or added to the list in the future. This prevents the monarchy from enabling unpopular actions, while still being able to add to the king's moves. After their announcements, new decrees have a 1-week minimum delay before the vote for discussion and debate. Here is the initial list of moves. The exact order of operations is up to you, but this is generally how I think things should go. 1. Force Elon to write Twitter code necessary to pin my or your tweets to the top of everyone's Twitter feeds for 24 hours after they are posted. This is in preparation for step 2A through 2E. Keep the action top secret before plan 2 begins. The code could take a week or two to write. 1A. Plan step 2A through 2E. Step 2 is the hardest part of the coup. Keep this entire list secret. The exact levels of inter-military disclosure are up to you. You all seem very good at keeping secrets. Whoops. All of step 2 happens simultaneously. 2A. This is where the fun begins. Troops are moved into place. I don't know how many you will need. There is a pretty good chance there won't be any gunfire or violence at all. Just shouting, confusion, and disbelief. You might need as few as 100 to 300 troops per building. Bring air support for fun too, why not? 2B. All of the U.S. military agencies post on Twitter that the U.S. government is now under the control of the Holy Paladins and announce that the U.S. is now an absolute Christian theocratic monarchy. The king's name is to be determined. 2C. Take over the Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury by force, using the military. Get control of the coin purse of the U.S., the servers which manage bank accounts and transactions. Immediately prepare the simple code needed for Step 3A. At this moment, the clock is ticking and the public is confused, scared, and angry. You will need a highly skilled programmer who is knowledgeable with the system to take control of the monetary system as soon as possible. 2D. Take over the Congressional Building and White House using the military. Tell them their services aren't needed anymore. Turn them into military-occupied buildings. I guess this one might be optional and ceremonial. The takeover of the Federal Reserve and Treasury are not, though. 2E. Tweet that the Bill of Rights remains in effect. The Constitution, however, is suspended until further notice. 3A. Using the Federal Reserve, print $18,000 and put it into the bank account of everyone who earned over $1,000 and under $90,000 in the year 2019. Call this action, quote, the inflationary jubilee, and that is it intended to ease the financial burdens of the working class while reducing the total debt loads of society. In a tweet and or EBS, make it clear that this action can occur at any time without warning going forward. Tweet the total percent the money supply has expanded so businesses can easily adjust their prices. People on welfare, under the $1,000 threshold, have been living a life of relaxation and privilege, so I don't think they deserve the $18K payment. I estimate that only 3 to 5 $18K burst deposits are needed and helpful, but don't tell the public that. It is more fun to keep them in the dark and waking up every day ecstatically checking their bank balance. 3B. Start an EBS ensuring the public that everything is under control. and that huge changes will be coming very rapidly for the next 3 to 6 months. The first 18K should be sent out as soon as possible as assurance to let the public know that you are here to save them from debt slavery, and you are the good guys. I would also use this EBS to assure the public that the changes will neither be socialist nor communist in nature, but they will be addressing chronic poverty. 3C. Command everyone with this, if they support my actions, to show their support by rallying at their local city hall every Sunday at 3 p.m. with signs saying Christ is King and today's date to share online. These rallies will eventually be moved to the local sports stadiums and turned into organized meetings, education, and dialogue. 3C2. Tweet the command, quote, to show your support for the Paladin Revolution and the coup. Fly your U.S. flag upside down. We will have a new flag soon, but expect it to be sold out for a while. Building the Holy Paladin Constitution. 3D. Establish a military court system called Paladin Court. It is meant to enforce these decrees, especially the switch to a partial worker ownership contract in Step 10 for businesses. Open a local physical branch in every city with a population over 25,000. It could just be a strip mall. It doesn't have to be fancy. We will have time for that later. 3E. An important new King's move I will mention because it's regarding the governance of the Holy Paladins, most notably the Paladin courts. Paladins will elect a Paladin Hexarchy, rule by 6, every other year. With the support of the Paladin Hexarchy, the king can overrule any Paladin court judgment. The Paladin Hexarchy stands as a check on the king's power. The king will also appoint his own royal hexarchy, step 5F, which doubles as his royal council. These two hexarchies then can be used almost like two houses of Congress, one elected and one selected, in future additions and improvements to the Holy Paladin Constitution. 3F. Paladin courts collapse the penal code down from 185,000 pages currently to a more understandable and manageable 5 to 10 pages or so. Essentially, we are radically deregulating the courtroom itself. Here's an example of the entire penal code of the Neo-Cities. Not shown here, it's in the PDF. 3G. The Holy Paladin Constitutional Creative Bounty is like the original Creative Bounty, but only submissions for the new Paladin Constitution are allowed. $3,600 per submission, and payouts are 10 times higher as well. $3.6 million for every idea added to the Constitution. Changing the Holy Paladin Constitution requires a 5/6 majority of the Paladins' direct democracy, not a mere 2/3 vote like the normal king's moves. 3H. The king can be overthrown by a 1/3 Paladin direct democracy vote initiated by the Paladin Hexarchy at most once per year. Then, in 3 months, a king or queen election takes place. Only people who have served on the Royal Hexarchy or anyone whose ideas have been added to the King's Moves or the Holy Paladin Constitution are allowed to run for king. This includes the king who was just overthrown. He is allowed to run again himself. Ranked choice voting must be used in the election. Only active duty paladins vote, of course. 3I. We will be establishing a social credit score for artists only called the Artistic Credit Score. Points are awarded for artistic creative achievements by a newly appointed Royal Artistic Council, and negative points and deductions are not allowed. This is done to effectively view and manage the artistic portfolios of all of the best artists in society. Artists in a digital database can then be sorted by artistic score, requested salary, how busy they are, portfolio viewing and style, type of art specialization, etc. This allows for quick and effective hiring of artists for various projects in Neo-Cities and elsewhere. Talented and proven artists will then be valued as highly as engineers, chemists, and other prized professions. That concludes the Paladin Constitution. Now we are back to the plan. Step 4. Once you get this far, I will feel comfortable revealing myself by showing up at my local Paladin court branch. 4A. Begin construction of 60 neo-cities in strategic locations across the U.S. This will expand the housing supply by 8 million units and release pressure on the housing market, dropping prices significantly. Neo-cities are profoundly futuristic and innovative, but I cannot give more details without compromising my identity. Construction should take 3 to 12 years and require the hiring and training of 360,000 laborers. A new city-state constitution has already been developed for these neo-cities and can be applied to existing cities. I cannot give more details on this due to privacy concerns, but just know the replacement constitution is done and amazing. 4A2. Designate 6 neo-cities as socialist LGBT friendly and 6 cities as LGBTQ friendly. The socialists can collectively come up with a new socialist city-state constitution, and we can all watch this social experiment succeed or fail in real time via social media, and Paladin Media could also report on it. It will be Chaz 2.0. The solution to political radicalism and cultural conflict is localization via city-states. 4B. Quietly compile a huge list of federal departments to close and public sector employees to fire. This is in preparation for step 10A, preferably over 50% of the federal workforce. The goal is to come out of this transformation with a balanced budget and 0% inflation. 4C. Send this tweet, quote, "Here is my second royal command. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m., assemble in your local park. There you will meet new people, serve and eat food, sing songs, find a romantic partner, and enjoy activities of your own choosing. Build a community, let your children make friends, and talk about the bright future ahead." 4D. Take over the top 3 financial institutions, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, using the military. Call this new banking institution, quote, Paladin Capital. EBS tweet that it will be financing the transformation of the United States and the total eradication of chronic poverty. 5A. Cap the number of real estate you can own per person at 2. Auction the property of anyone who owns more than 2 properties at the 5D meetings, with at least the least expensive being forcefully sold first. Corporations and non-citizens can no longer own real estate. All corporate and foreign-owned property will be locally auctioned at 5D meetings. Initially, there will be tons of property for auction, so be sure to give buyers at least 2 to 4 weeks to shop around after posting the list of available properties online. Use a silent auction-style arrangement, with a large table set up for each zip code. Limit 1 property purchase per person, and only people with a W-2 of 10K to 90K and 0 properties can bid. Verify income and lack of ownership at the gate entry point to the bidding area. Let everyone know that Paladin Capital will be financing all purchases at 1% interest, 0 down, 0 closing costs. The properties per person limit will be expanded to 3 after prices have collapsed and the working class has been able to acquire a home. This should be 12 to 24 months after the coup. 5A2. Data input manipulation for Step 5A will be very labor intensive. There are 140 million properties in the US, and the home ownership rate is 65%. If 25% of the remaining 35% is seized and auctioned at 5A meetings, then this would be up to 35 million properties. If the paperwork to auction and change ownership on the database takes roughly 10 to 30 minutes per property, this would require 6 million to 18 million hours of labor. At 40 hours per week, this is 150,000 to 450,000 man-weeks of labor. Spreading this labor out over 6 months, and you would need to hire 6,000 to 18,000 people to do nothing but process paperwork and change property ownership on the database. Prepare accordingly. The 5A auctions should crash housing real estate prices by at least 50%, hopefully to under 200K. 5C. Offer 1% interest rate mortgages to the working poor using Paladin Capital. Also buy up all of the NeoCity construction bonds at 1% interest. Tell any rich people who try to withdraw their funds from Paladin Capital that their funds are currently tied up in bonds and they will be paid 1% interest. A 1% interest rate mortgage of a $150,000 house is only $480 a month. This is what is possible. 5D. Send this tweet, quote, "Here is my third royal command. Every Monday at 3 p.m., assemble at your local sports stadium. Local Paladins will host a community meeting where people can propose and get funding for local innovative projects. Our society will now only be limited by the dreams and creativity of our best and brightest, instead of being limited by money and politics as it is now." 5E. While I will reveal myself to Paladins in Step 4, I will remain completely anonymous to the public at large. This includes all podcast appearances, photographs, etc., where I will wear a V for Vendetta or other mask. This is done for several reasons. 1. It protects me from assassination, and many people will want me dead. 2. It allows me to walk through crowds maskless without being noticed. 3. Fame is a double-edged sword. 4. Paladins, yes even you, can LARP as king by putting on a mask. This can include press events, diplomatic events, public events, parades, etc. Basically, the king turns into the mall Santa, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. 5. It is fun and hilarious. 5F. I will be choosing my royal successors immediately based on scientific merit and achievement and/or creative merit and achievement. Perhaps a whole 6-person council of successors, all hand-picked based on merit. 6. The Paladins at this point should forcefully shut down operations of CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. They will probably all be screaming, quote, "Christo-fascism is destroying the country, kill the Paladins," 24/7 anyway. Good riddance. Replace their broadcasts with, quote, "To improve the mental and spiritual health of this nation, this news channel has been permanently shut down. Spend time with your family, call an old friend, enjoy life." If these propaganda outlets are seriously toxic, it is probably best to shut them down before Step 6, maybe at Step 4. They don't add any value to society. In fact, they only make it significantly worse. 6A. Tweet hilarious stuff. Make light of the situation. Tell everyone to sit back and trust the plan. Where we go one, we go all. Nothing can stop what is coming. Post biblical scripture on Twitter using official accounts. Be mysterious. Be silly. Keep everyone on their toes and keep them guessing. 6B. Ban every single offensive, negative, hateful, tribal, political pundit and newspaper from Twitter, on both sides. Instead of saying account suspended, have a message saying, quote, "This individual has contributed to the demonic possession of society. Their voice is no longer needed nor helpful." We have to greatly minimize and attempt to eliminate partisan fighting, the constant battle and division and anger created by a two-party democracy. That society doesn't exist anymore, and so that type of thinking serves no purpose and is actively harmful and destructive. Intellectual discussion of policy, statistics, sociology, and creativity is more than acceptable and is encouraged and rewarded. Everyone will be unbanned after 12 months. 6C. Take over the servers of Reddit by force. Close all of the political subreddits except our politics. There, we will only allow Paladin mods to post, and they will post happy, uplifting messages of progress and unity. Reddit is reopened after 12 months, but the old corrupt mods are not returned. Note, the limits to First Amendment by Step 6 through Step C are temporary and only intended to limit the constant destructive hateful narrative warfare and group identity-based slander and partisanship of modern political discourse. Now that we have a monarchy and Paladin direct democracy, there is no partisanship. There are no political parties. There are no traditional elections. This type of speech therefore has no value, and in my opinion rarely ever did to begin with. The 12-month First Amendment restriction will calm the rational conversation during the rapid transformation, after which the perpetually hysterical political pundit class can then return to their keyboards and phones. 6D. After taking over the 24-hour news stations in Step 6, hire some studio staff to broadcast uplifting Christian music, educational content, spiritual content, and even host open Paladin discussions with the Paladins who are occupying the buildings. The NYPD will hopefully be supportive and understanding of the occupation and takeover. They will have to be made aware of parts of the King's moves. Step 6E. In cities where homelessness is a problem, eminent domain parking lots or other empty land for encampments. Have Paladins mass-produce tiny homes for $2,000 each, with one communal kitchen and shower per plot of land. Add a bus stop and have the homeless find employment and earn their $1,000 so they can get the $18K burst deposit and 1% Paladin capital mortgage. Promote 3 trustworthy homeless to deputies to make sure their encampment stays safe and opiate-free. Cannabis is fine. If 500,000 people are homeless in the US, solving homelessness only costs $1 billion. These homeless encampments can be used for decades into the future for any lazy, stubborn people who demand free housing. 7. Eminent domain the most expensive hospital in every city, using the military. The Pentagon now runs the hospital, and they use a partial worker ownership contract in Step 10. This new corporation is known as Paladin Health. Hire lots of military men and women to run the hospital. Receive on-the-job training from the existing staff as necessary. 7A. If the labor market is destabilizing due to working-class people quitting or moving to part-time or taking a vacation, then tweet EBS, quote, "Those currently on welfare are encouraged to apply for a part-time job to fill gaps in employment. If you earn over $1,000, you are eligible to receive the next burst kit of $18K deposits and a 1% interest Paladin mortgage. This helps ensure there won't be any severe labor shortages. There might be some temporary instability, and wages will rapidly rise to get people back to work. It's fine." 7B. I will tweet, quote, "You have 3 weeks to form a singing quartet and perform at your local park gathering on X day. Record the live performance of 2 songs of your choice and post them on Twitter with the hashtag #RoyalQuartet. The top 18,000 groups will be awarded $6,000 each. Good luck and start those auditions as soon as possible. Of course, the winners will have a singing career ahead of them as well." 7C. Pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Ross Ulbricht, and Donald Trump. 7D. Tweet, quote, "On X day at Y hour at Z location, I will be revealing to the world the true source of global warming. It is not CO2. It never was. You were lied to. EBS the meeting live, with all of the media there. Make a complete mockery of the media as they discover the truth in real time." 7E. Since places like New York City were overlooked by the auctions of Step 5A, Paladin will be eminent domaining every residential building with more than 4 units. The owner is compensated at $200 per square foot. The building is then converted to condominiums, which existing tenants are optionally able to purchase from Paladin at $200 per square foot. $0 down, 0 closing costs, 1% Paladin capital mortgages will be available for tenants. An 860 square foot apartment would cost $172,000 with a mortgage payment of $550. Tenants will then elect a building executive from the pool of tenants to collect payments for building maintenance and repairs, as well as optional community actions, such as turning empty apartments into Paladin centers, see Step 9E, or commercial businesses. 7F. All residential buildings with more than 4 units will be mixed-use zoning too. Why not? Throw a daycare or private school or bar or community center among the residential apartments. The building executive must approve of any commercial uses within their building. 8. Eminent domain clear channel radio stations across the U.S. Create a music station called Paladin Music. Broadcast on 101 FM. Use these stations to distribute news, new music, promote local talented artists, and local events and concerts. Basically help move the culture away from corporate degeneracy. 8A. Eminent domain the land required for a high-speed rail network between neo-cities and existing cities, and then buy the necessary train equipment and expert labor from China. Name the institution Paladin Rail. You will only have to eminent domain a 40-foot wide tract of land. If it cuts through someone's existing farm, just throw some money at them. 8B. Secretly warn Russia and China that you are defaulting on the national debt. The warning is to ensure good diplomatic relations going forward. Such a decision seems financially destabilizing, but it must be done. The interest on the national debt recently exceeded $1 trillion per year. Think of the national debt as the rich, pension funds, and corporate bankers constantly extracting wealth from the taxpayer. That's all it is. Just declare bankruptcy and be done with it. 8C. Start an automated digitally enabled car share service called Paladin Auto. Finance the purchase of a fleet, perhaps 10 cars per 1,000 people, using Paladin capital. This not only makes automobile access much cheaper, but it also greatly improves parking issues in cities by taking cars off of the roads by increasing fleet efficiency. 8D. Have the Paladin direct democracy vote on establishing a maximum family size. This must be done for overpopulation purposes. Sorry. We do unfortunately live on a finite planet and are limited mostly by farmland. With technological breakthroughs, maybe we can someday lift this limit temporarily. Anyway, Paladin will vote on making the maximum family size either 3, 4, or 5 children. The option with the most votes wins. Fathers will be forced to have a vasectomy when the maximum family size is reached. I don't know why proposals like this make so many people angry, but facts don't care about your feelings. Also, people will now want to breed like rabbits so their family can collectively own more property due to the new 5A policy, the limits of 2 per person. Endless human greed is sadly an ever-present reality and problem governments have to struggle with. Deal with it. 9. Establish TV Channel 6 in every city. Start a station called Paladin Media with the mission statement of educating the public on this new society and the changes being made. 9A. Tell each of the public gatherings from 4C to elect parties in the park to elect a park architect on X day. This person now has the authority to delegate the construction of buildings and art pieces and general forms of entertainment for their given park. The park architect chooses local creative talent who have shown their skills at 4C park gatherings to beautify the park and make it unique. They can also build paths, benches, tree houses, hammock areas, fire pits, flower gardens, ponds, and whatever they can dream up, really. Each feature or project is then separately voted on by a direct democracy at Thursdays at 6 p.m., requiring a 2/3 approval. Paladin Capital will gladly fund these projects after plans are submitted by the park architect and funding estimates are made. The top 60 most creative and beautiful designs will win cash awards, once again paid by Paladin Capital, paid to the designers and builders of the designs. Career opportunities with the Paladins are also available to these prize winners, since this is now a meritocracy after all. 9B. We will hold a contest to beautify the Paladin courts across the U.S. Any citizen can participate at their local court. The most creative and inviting and uplifting Paladin court decor wins cash prizes and a career in further beautification projects, notably at neo-cities and elsewhere. First place gets $360,000, second place gets $300,000, third gets $240,000, fourth $480,000, and so on. We actually need more awards than this. We need many more. Just note. 9C. Tweet EBS. Anyone who owns rural plots of land over 30 acres and is encouraged to sell them to Paladin to be converted into solar farms. This new company is called Paladin Solar and will be constructing enough solar farms to generate up to 60% of the total U.S. electric capacity. This will require roughly 1.2 million acres of land and $500 billion. Apply for a career with Paladin Solar at your local Paladin court. 9D. Take over incompetent district attorneys in progressive cities. Install a paladin with legal experience who will convict and sentence criminals. 9E. Tweet EBS. Quote, if you own an extra house, consider selling it to Paladin and having it converted to a Paladin Center, a hyper-local community center and corner store. There, local neighbors will be encouraged to host parties, have gaming nights, babysitting, meals, or simply just hang out whenever. This will all be available within walking distance of their home. Every Paladin Center will be owned by Paladin, with property taxes and utilities paid by Paladin, and managed by the neighbors themselves. Ideally, we want one Paladin Center per 150 U.S. residents, so we seek to create 2 million Paladin Centers. Reach out to us at your local Paladin court. 9F. Tweet, quote, on July 4th, 2025, we will be awarding prizes to the most beautiful and creative Paladin Center houses. 1st through 6th get 6 million. I think we changed these numbers. We have different numbers now. So just ignore those numbers. The Paladin Centers already have their governance structure mapped out, but I can't give details due to anonymity's sake. It utilizes a contract devised for small tribalist governance previously created for the Neo-Cities. These cities, despite having a population density 2 times higher than Manhattan, contain private communes nested deep inside of their vast 3-dimensional steel structure. These Neo-City communes vary in size anywhere between 3 to 180 people, basically a village, and exist privately behind locked doors. You may think this sounds suffocating, but remember the Neo-Cities have 30-foot ceilings. 10. Make all corporations adopt a partial worker ownership contract. The actual percentages vary from industry to industry, but the default is 33 labor, 33 merit, and 33% shareholder. Food service would be 60% labor, 20% merit, and 20% shareholder. Tweet EBS, quote, employees will convene on X day in the main lobby to establish the partial worker ownership contract and elect a new CEO. There are more details regarding this contract, but I cannot give details due to risking my identity. Paladin courts will enforce this transition. Any corporate leadership refusing this transition can be reported to the Paladin courts. If found guilty, they are sentenced to 6 months jail. 10A. Fire millions of public sector workers. Send out another 18,000 burst deposit the day they are all fired to reduce the chance of revolts. 10B. Send this tweet. Quote, here is my 4th royal command. Each family germinates 24 fruit tree seeds of their choosing. If 50% of families comply and 50% of the seeds are female, then 6 female fruit trees will be planted per family. They will produce enough fruit to supply 10% of the total food demand, for free. No logistics necessary. 10C. 2 weeks after step 8B, default on the national debt. 32 trillion to zero, instantly. 11. Using fresh economic inflation, wage, and budget figures, reformulate the income tax brackets. Perhaps something similar to what is shown below, but the actual numbers are hard to estimate. Abolish the payroll tax if possible. You can see the numbers yourself, I won't read them off. 11A. Replace Social Security and other welfare systems with a UBI that scales with age to support people into retirement. The UBI target should be 30 to 50% of the average rent or mortgage, or 60 to 100% for couples, and scales up to cover all bills at 50 plus years of age. Keep in mind these figures might increase by 50 to 100% or so due to inflation from the 1K burst deposits, 18K burst deposits. These numbers are with the current USD value. The 3 trillion, this is for a chart that doesn't show up because it's a JPEG. This is it's a UBI chart. And inflation with the burst deposits as well. Please remember that the UBI replaces welfare and Social Security. We can keep Medicare, I guess. 11B. In order to tap into the near infinite creative potential of the public, we will be establishing a creative bounty. The public comes up with new king's moves, or architecture, or entertainment, or business models. and submits them to their local Paladin court location. Submissions will cost $360 to ensure serious submissions only, so we don't get mountains of low-effort spam. If the idea is chosen, the citizen in question is awarded $360,000. If we task the public to generate a specific idea, first place gets $360K, second gets $240, and third gets $120K. 12. Ban hunting throughout the U.S., with the exception being the self-defense of your home, family, pets, or livestock from predators. Punishable by 1 year in prison. The goal is to have big families of happy deer who feel safe around humans, and to maximize wildlife in general. Why would we not want this? 13. Cut the Pentagon budget by 60% and get Russia and China to do the same simultaneously. Swords to plowshares. Biblical prophecy demands it. Also, we need to balance that budget, remember? Don't worry, by this time in the plan, the entire national economy will be completely different. Wages, housing, prices of goods, prices of stocks, everything. Everything will be significantly improved. So even if you are laid off during these Pentagon cuts, you will be able to survive on 24 hours a week or less. The neo-cities specifically are so affordable that you can survive and even thrive working 2 days per week, because they have no cars or property taxes. 14. As part of this demilitarization treaty, Russia and China must also educate their entire population for at least 3 months on the same foundational changes which Paladin has implemented in the United States. These changes weaken oligarchy and political power structures and improve localization and liberty. Hopefully this creates a spirit of freedom in these cultures for decades to come. 14A. Tweet that China is the #1 society on Earth and congratulate them on their profound achievement. Declare that US and Russia are tied at #2. Form an alliance with both nations. This action is humble, mature, and necessary to maximize diplomatic relationships between all three superpowers. Remember, swords to plowshares. Instead of having a constant arms race, perhaps the world can endure constant demilitarization by the largest superpowers simultaneously. Wouldn't this be a good thing? Step 16. Where's 15? What? Anyway, optional. With the permission of China... Oh yeah, I forgot. So 15 was deleted. With the permission of China and Russia, annex Canada via a blitzkrieg war, starting with the total destruction of their air force while they are still grounded. Call Justin Trudeau and break the news to him. Force him to immediately surrender, or else his country will suffer a full-scale ground invasion. If all goes smoothly, he will surrender within an hour with a total of 0 deaths on both sides. If he does not surrender, on day 2, we will blow up their parliament and prime minister's home, after they're given 60-minute warning to evacuate each. If he still doesn't surrender, on day 3, we will give out the following command to Canadians. Quote, any Canadian who supports the U.S. takeover of Canada, go on a general strike, stop paying your mortgage and other bills. Protest at your local city hall every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 p.m. until Trudeau surrenders. 17. Make an offer to Mexico and Central America and the Caribbean to assimilate into the new North American empire. They will have to convert their bureaucracy and citizens' databases into ours. Team up with Mexican authorities to go to war with the Mexican cartels and make them surrender or be destroyed. This process could take 12 months. 17A. Convert most U.S. cities to the new city-state constitution outlined in Letter 2. Oh, Letter 2, ignore that part. Break up huge cities into sections of roughly 250,000. We never should have made 1 million person cities. What a mistake that was. Our cities are far too large and inefficient. 18. Carry out reforms similar to the King's moves in both Canada and Central America. This may take another 12 months, so we're well into 2026 or 2027 at this point. 19. Dissolve the North American Empire into the Holy North American Empire, which is a reboot of the Holy Roman Empire, a federation of sovereign city-states. Paladin is the main military force for the Holy North American Empire, and at this point could cut income taxes and lower the UBI by maybe 30%, and move to a more long-term libertarian form of governing, assuming the Paladin direct democracy agrees. 19A. Increase the number of properties each person can own from 2 to 3. 20. Build 120 more neo-cities, or maybe 240 more neo-cities, if you include Canada and Central America. 21. Begin the ultimate battle against entropy. Convert to 100% renewables for both grid and vehicle energy. That's going to be a hard one. That 21 is a whole rabbit hole in itself. It's I could make another hour-long video just about 21. 22. That might be it. I guess we could slowly assimilate South America too and carve up the European Union between Russia and China. By the time these things are seriously discussed, it will already be 2030 or 2035, so I wouldn't worry about it for now. I think step 21 could take us 50 years by itself, to be honest. It's quite the rabbit hole. This concludes the King's moves. It should be more than clear to you by now that Congress has failed and is incapable of reform or fixing the problems this country faces. A soft military coup is the only way forward. You may say, but what about the Constitution? But even the founders thought this country would require a revolution every 40 years. Well, it's been 250 years and we haven't had one yet. But now is the time. This step-by-step plan will guide us along that path and minimize chaos while maximizing trust, especially among the ranks of the police and military whom it will be shared widely with. The chance of a leak is quite high, so distribute it accordingly, or maybe only release 1 to 2 steps in advance to select officers. You will have to play this by ear based on levels of anger and distrust. Top trusted military officials should receive the full plan to ensure loyalty and stability at the highest levels. Well, you guys are all lucky you get the whole plan all at once, because things are moving slower than I thought they would. Trump wanted a coup, but let's be honest, he just wasn't worthy of the crown. He wasn't creative enough, he wasn't insightful, he wasn't forward-thinking. He wasn't bold, wasn't friendly, he was too partisan. He couldn't be trusted with the power. Well, you aren't trusting me, you are trusting the plan, as Q says. Search for the keywords left, right, Republican, Democrat, trans, gender, white, black. Note they aren't contained in the document, not once. This is the way forward. Unity, policy, populism. Something you must understand. The purpose of political authority is to make and carry out good decisions. While truth be told, an individual requires no authority to make good decisions. He or she only requires creativity, intellect, and wisdom. Once excellent decisions have been made, the authority to carry them out can be acquired through your consent and understanding. The Constitution in actuality is a mere social construct, a severely limiting and suffocating social device which has been fully infiltrated by bad actors, Congress and both parties. The United States is desperately in need of an outsider, someone who has zero regard for lobbyists, party politics, the Overton window, the reaction of the corporate media, the hostility of their congressional colleagues, or the scorn of Washington, D.C. Good policy always collapses down into what is good for the average worker, because they are the default position. The average worker is the role you end up in when you have no political or institutional or financial power. So if policy were one day designed to make the average worker as comfortable as possible, then there would be no need for endless political, institutional, or financial privilege and the work and the conflict which comes with it. Because the worst case scenario is working 3 days per week and retiring at 50, living a life of relative comfort and ease. We call this political strategy populism, and the corrupt, evil Washington, D.C. establishment hates it. The same establishment which derives and sustains its power using the U.S. Constitution. The machine hates populism because navigating the machine is their whole life, their whole existence. They derive their meaning from growing and manipulating the machine for their own benefit, and truth be told, they gain endless pride and narcissism from their social superiority to the suffering working class. Nothing makes a privileged, spoiled man happier than seeing the struggle and despair of a homeless man. This is the mindset, spirit, and lifestyle which must be destroyed, and it only can be destroyed through extra-constitutional means, through absolute monarchism. Populism can only be swiftly and decisively achieved through absolute monarchism. And absolute monarchism requires the consent of you, the military. The King's Moves is designed to gain your consent. Where we go one, we go all. Christianity will morally guide us and temper the power of the throne and the holy paladins. Also, the whole journey is one of eschatology, of manifesting the end of history. The Neo-Cities are inspired by the New Jerusalem of Revelation. The paladins are holy paladins. They do the will of God, Deus Vult. The power of the monarch's decrees are derived through their righteousness. Righteousness, the quality of being morally right or justifiable. This concludes the King's Moves. Expect more creative ideas to appear as history unfolds. Understand this. You already have access to generative intelligence. They're called humans. No AGI necessary, just embrace the gifted among you. But in order to do that, you must cast aside your misanthropy. Tough, I know. For 200 years, we have had rule by businessmen, and things have gone sour. Now it is time for rule by artists, by magician. Must we wait 100 years and 25 presidential elections for our sacred democracy to discover and carry out these same policies and actions, if they ever do? Once our great struggle for 2024 is over, what will be done? What will be addressed? Can you summarize the campaign's messages so far? Is anyone talking about poverty at all, besides maybe Marianne Williamson? Does she have a bold, decisive plan to address it? No, she does not. If the best leadership that democracy can come up with is Trump versus Biden, then what good is it? Why not appoint a monarch instead? Doesn't the military crave strong leadership? Leadership that desires peace? Haven't I already proven myself worthy with these 2 letters? What more is required of a leader than to make creative and effective proposals and commands? Elections are beyond overrated and completely unnecessary. You, the military, are the true kingmaker, not elections. Beyond presenting the King's Moves as a clearly superior alternative, I do not know how to get you to understand that democracy is an awful system which must be destroyed. The broken families, destroyed friendships, protests, anger, misunderstandings, the countless hours of propaganda in YouTube podcasts, and CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, the mountains of news articles, advocacy groups, campaign donations. What was it all for if the outcome can't even begin to compare to a mere 12 pages of absolute theocratic monarchism? If you aren't a fan of the theocratic angle, I ask you this. What is wrong with holiness? Why the aggressive insistence on the rejection of God? Has this secular path which we all collectively has taken led us to increasing enlightenment, increasing wisdom, increasing happiness, increasing wealth? Divorce, depression, anger, homelessness have never been higher. Theocracy is not the rejection of science and technology. God is the ultimate creator of science, the ultimate creator of technology. Who do you think created the computer, God or the inventor? The possibility of the computer has existed since the Big Bang. We only uncover and manifest God's ultimate creation. The King's Moves is merely lifting the veil of godly potential for mankind and the United States. It is the apocalypse by definition. History and the country is yours to bend to our will. The kingdom of God is waiting for us on the other side, on the greatest timeline. Don't make them wait too long, because we only live once, and the clock is ticking. I hope you start to see what is coming together here. Moderate checks and balances. Oh, this is about the Constitution, yeah. The moderate checks and balances, a more robust judicial system, and overall a healthier government structure. The Neo-City Constitution is only 6 pages long, and you would be shocked at how much raw data you can fit into only 6 pages. The long-term goal is to keep the Holy Paladin Constitution below 12 to 18 pages. Brevity is the soul of wit, after all. This is true in politics as well. It is amazing how tight-lipped everyone has been about these ideas, despite their incomprehensible historical, cultural, and economic significance. To witness this all not play out is both shocking and profound. Not what I expected, but then again I tend to be louder and more stubborn than most. Many people have been saying this is the most exciting time in history, and I have to remind you, the revolution hasn't even started yet. Currently, it still only exists in your heart, mind, and soul, which of course is the foundation of any true revolution. But you look outside and absolutely nothing has changed. And yet inside of you, inside of us, everything has changed. Have you noticed the voice of God? Have you been touched by the divine in your life? As we mentally, spiritually, and economically get closer to utopia, to God's kingdom, this will occur more and faster and stronger until it overwhelms you and you break down in tears of joy and gratitude. When this occurs, you will know we have finally made it there. Expect this to happen at the Party at the Park, Step 4C, or at the Christ is King rallies, Step 3C, if it hasn't already happened to you. We have so much to look forward to, so much to do and create and be a part of. There seems to be an undercurrent of anticipation and optimism within the discourse of the day. And I sit here wondering if the King's Moves, or Cuckoo for Loco Stuffs is an alternative title, was the spark which lit the fire in our collective souls. I hope and pray that it was. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. For I consider that the suffering of this present time are not worth the comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. That's you have knowledge now. Before him all the nations are as nothing. They are regarded by him as worthless and less than nothing. And in the latter time of their rule, when the transgressors have filled up their measure, a sovereign, fierce of face and skilled at intrigues, shall stand up. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord, and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Then the angel said to me, These words are faithful and true. The Lord, the God of the spirits of the prophets, has sent his angel to show his servants what must soon take place. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He hath a name written which no one knoweth but he himself. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with an rod of iron, and he will treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. Tell us, how will our end come? Jesus said, Have you found the beginning then, that you are looking for the end? You see, the end will be where the beginning is. Congratulations on the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. Jesus said, He who seeks should not stop seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will be disturbed. When he is disturbed, he will be astonished, and will rule over all. The disciples said to Jesus, Tell us, what will heaven's imperial rule look like? He said to them, It is like a mustard seed. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it falls on prepared soil, it produces a large branch and becomes a shelter for the birds of the sky. Jesus said, If two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, Move from here, and it will move. For when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed also. But in fact, the ministry that Jesus has received is as superior to theirs as the covenant of which he is a mediator is superior to the old one, since the new covenant is established on better promises. And thou, wicked profane wicked prince of Israel, whose day is come, when iniquity shall have an end, thus saith the Lord God, Remove the diadem, and take off the crown. This shall not be the same. Exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. I will overturn it, and it shall be no more, until he come whose right it is, and I will give it to him. At that time his voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, "Once more I will shake not only the earth, but heaven as well." The words "once more" signify the removal of what has been shaken. That is, the created things, so that the unshakable may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving an unshakable kingdom, let us be filled with gratitude, and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The time has come, he said. The kingdom of God has come near. Repent and believe the good news. Now get up, for I have appeared to name you my servant and my witness. Tell what you saw and what I will show you in the future. That concludes the audiobook reading of The King's Moves. I hope you enjoyed all of the ideas presented within and the potential transformation that those ideas afford all of us going forward into the future. Please share this video with anyone who may be interested in transformation and futurism and new political theories that are far, far outside the box. Thank you. A single manifesto is more powerful than 1,000 years of political propaganda.